like that question at all. So he kind of like went
Bristled.
straight faced
Yeah.
and like he was kind of pissed. But I walked away thinking that's what the son of a former NBA player is like would seem in anyone's mind. You think, oh, son of former NBA player, they have this kind of like thing about them.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. You're like, oh, okay. But then, covering him throughout the years, especially covering so many Warriors games that I had to during the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think you gain like a new respect. And like as a shooter, it's just incredible. Like absolutely incredible. The 37-point quarter against the Kings was just like nuts.
The thing I always go back to on that, not to bring up old stuff for Kings fans, but the incredible thing about that specific quarter was, I think it was like Ray McCallum and Nick Stauskas were the two guys guarding him the most. And I didn't think it through it wasn't like he was just like, man, they just can't stay in front of him. Like, no, there were a couple times where they had hands in his face, like in his jersey, and he's still pulling up and hitting shots. Like, man, that's just unbelievable.
No, he is. He's unbelievable.
Yeah. So. It was bizarre seeing. I didn't think it would be that weird because the Klay Thompson exit from Golden State was not nice. It wasn't like, oh, we can't come to an agreement. Hey, here's kind of a deal. And he went, okay, yeah, I like that, but hey, I'm getting a little more money over here. And they went, hey, okay, yeah, go ahead. Well, it wasn't amicable. There was very real tension there.
Mm-hmm.
And that so it wasn't like, oh man, sad to see. It was just kind of an awkward thing. And all of last year was awkward.
Yeah.
Because he like his
I think 2 years there.
Yeah, it was
awkward.
It was just really clear that they needed more out of what the position he was playing and the minutes he was taking up, and he wasn't willing to take a back seat, which like understandable. You won 4 titles and you're one of the greatest shooters to ever put on sneakers. So like I understand. But he needed to go be elsewhere where he can play that role with the Mavericks. And I didn't really think that much about it until he was in Chase Center in a different uniform, and it was weird. It was a lot weirder than I expected it to be.
I think the whole way that the 2 years played out with them, it's where they just chose Draymond over everybody else.
Yeah.
That's what made it really strange. They chose Draymond over Jordan Poole when Draymond punched him in the face. Then they chose him with a contract over Klay.
Mm-hmm.
And so it put this like weird element of, but again, I think Draymond, his style of play, his type of game, it might be more serviceable long, like it might hold up a little bit better over the length of the contract, where you had already seen the massive diminishing returns on Klay Thompson.
Yeah, especially late in the last couple of seasons. We saw it here at Golden One Center last year.
Oh, yeah.
0 for 10. And that was following up the two elimination games they had the previous year against the Lakers. He was not good.
He wasn't good in the series against the Kings last year.
Yeah.
In the full series.
I think he had one game where it's like, oh, okay, there's Klay. But other than that, there's 6 games. It's just like, all right. Yeah, it was a little strange, a little bizarre. I can't think in the time I've been like following the Kings really closely, I can't think of a player that it's been like that, where it's been like weird when they come back in a different uniform.
No, it's
because like Tyrese obviously was a big deal, but it wasn't like he was here long enough to establish that rapport with the fan base.
Yeah.
And you traded him for an all-NBA center who helped carry you to the playoffs.
I think it's like some players come back and, like Buddy gets booed every time he touches the ball. I mean, Buddy was here a long time, like 4.5 years. I think it will be weird to see Harrison Barnes walk through the door. That's going to be a little bit different, but I've always taken it as like,
Barnes is a good one.
Yeah, it's fun to see people like go on and keep playing, like having Rudy Gay come through town all the time. Even like Pooh Jeter is an assistant coach
what a legend
on the Trailblazers, and he was part of the first team that I covered in 2010-11. That was his lone NBA season, and he's just the nicest dude. Catching up with Garrett Temple when they come through, although I missed him this time. There's every couple of, even Davion, Toronto came through. Davion like went over to talk to him for a few minutes, and like it's cool to catch up with guys because it's very strange. It's like you're at school with people and then someone moves away.
Yeah.
And then you don't get to see him anymore, and it's not like you're gonna call him or anything. And then you see him one time, you're like the county fair. You're like, hey, Hey, I forgot about you. I know you, and I haven't seen you in like 4 years. How are you? That's what it's like, and so I always like it.
The weird one, hopefully, I mean, ideally, De'Aaron and Domas and Keegan are in Kings uniforms for their entire careers. But it feels like they're all on track to be players who are here for a long time. And if one of them, hey, they think they have 1 year left and the Kings don't, and they go play for the Hawks, it would be weird. The one that jumps out to me is Isaiah Thomas. And I know he wasn't with the Kings for a super long time.
Only 3 years.
But the way he was traded and the fact he was traded.
It was a sign and trade for Alex Oriaki and a
UConn legend.
And
Mizzou?
The rights. No, UConn. Yeah.
I think he played at Mizzou as well, though. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But definitely UConn. That was weird because it looked like, oh, the Kings have a dude. Like IT can play. And then they just trade him. And every place he went when he had success, whether it was in Phoenix or in Boston, it was like, dang. Like he should have net.
And he didn't. It was a 3-year, $21 million deal. It wasn't even expensive.
Right. That's why it was weird. So it wasn't the like, oh, there was this connection with this player for a decade and a half and now he's elsewhere. It was like, hey man, you're in a different uniform and you definitely shouldn't be.
No, totally.
That was
I agree. And I've told this story before, but they're going up to the NBA Finals in Toronto. That's such an overwhelming thing to be it's overwhelming for the players. Like they quarter off the court. So there's a podium on each side of the court, on each corner of the court, and they rotate players through. So
for media day?
Yeah, for media day.
Got it.
So you come in and like everyone rushes around, but there's 3 other interviews going on. There's speakers up so people around can hear what's going on in that little bubble. People are throwing questions. And I specifically watched DeMarcus, and he was so overwhelmed by what was happening. There were too many people. People were throwing questions from everywhere. There's no like pass the mic around. It's just like lobbing questions, but everyone's surrounding the podium. And as soon as I started to ask a question, he looks over and you could see like, voice. Oh, it's a familiar voice.
Yeah.
James is here. And like, it wasn't what my question was. It was just like the idea that someone was there that he knew. Like, okay, I'm okay. I feel more comfortable. There's someone here. I know that voice. I feel comfortable. Really interesting to watch players.
Was it weird when he came? Did DeMarcus ever play here in a Pelicans uniform?
Oh, I don't think so, because he got hurt in
really early.
Yeah. I can't remember. He finished out his first season there. Then he got hurt in the second season. That's when he popped his Achilles. And then on his way back, he blew his knee out.
Yes.
Yeah, he was right before training camp, and then he missed a bunch of time with that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It feels like the NBA, more than any other league, has high profile versions like of Hakeem in a Raptors jersey. Or Ewing in a Magic jersey.
Ewing in a Seattle Supersonics jersey.
Ewing in a Seattle Supersonics jersey. I don't know why that was so hard to get out of my face.
Difficult.
Yeah, MJ in a Wizards jersey. Ugh. Or didn't Scottie Pippen have a weird one? He played for the Blazers
and the Rockets.
The Rockets.
Yeah. Huh. Oof.
Strange.
Not great.
All right. James Ham is there. I'm Kyle Madsen. We're sponsored by Jiffy Lube, and the Sacramento Kings play tonight against the Phoenix Suns. I almost said Seattle Supersonics again.
Oh.
I don't know. That's fine. The Phoenix Suns, the Sacramento Kings just beat them in overtime, 127-118 down in Phoenix. The Suns, on the second night of a back-to-back, they just played in Utah last night. This is a big one for the Kings. Anytime you can get a victory over a team that A, is ahead of you in the standings is a big deal. But B, one of the things that I think is going to become a huge factor, we talk about this a lot with like the 49ers, right? Where the division and tiebreakers and all of that is going to come into play. I think in the West, I don't think there's going to be a little separation when you look at where the standings are now. There's going to be a little separation by the time April rolls around. But I am certain that whether it's 4, 5, 6, 7, somewhere in that range, tiebreakers are going to come into play. And I think the Suns are going to be one of the teams that are there potentially with the Kings. So getting up on them in the season series would be a really, really big deal.
Yeah, this is a huge deal. They're a division foe. They're not only just a conference foe, but also a division foe. You've already got a 1-game advantage over them, the overtime win that we saw just a little while ago. Again, they are playing on second night of a back-to-back. Like, a lot of things are stacked towards you. The Kings are playing the third game in 4 nights, but that's going to be a continuing theme. They've got Thursday off, and then they play another back-to-back at home. So they're kind of trapped in this 3 games in 4 nights or 5 games in 7 nights. And you got to figure out a way to slow down the 3-point shot, to hit the 3-point shot, and to look a little bit different than you did the last time you played them, because that game was too close. And I think that the Kings, playing against a team like Phoenix without Kevin Durant, without potentially Yusuf Nurkic, this is a game you got to go and get.
And the Phoenix Suns currently the number 1 seed in the West, by the way.
Yeah.
At 9-2. Yeah, man, I'm with you. I think we'll learn a lot about Sacramento tonight in how they bounce back against a team. They're coming off a bad loss. This is a team that you just said, like, he probably shouldn't have gone to overtime against them. He did. They're good. Like, it's not like the Suns stink, but he probably shouldn't have gone to overtime in that game. He probably should. How do they bounce back from a really bad performance against the Spurs, against a team that they probably should have handled a little bit easier last time they played them? I think we're going to learn a lot tonight about where the Sacramento Kings are headed this season.
Yeah, I hope what we don't get is that sinking feeling that the Kings play up to competition and play down to competition, because this is one of those opportunities where you beat a team that was 8-1 the last time you played them. You dropped them to 8-2. They picked up a win last night and went to 9-2. But then you fall to a lower level team, and this is something the Kings have already done this year, where they got a good win in Atlanta, right?
Yep.
And then they fall to Toronto. Then they come back and get a good win against a quality Miami Heat team.
Yep.
So you're seeing this dynamic where it's like, hey, play up to competition, play down to competition. I don't want to see that. The Kings need to find a way to start having like a steady climb above 500.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they have that in them, but this is one of those opportunities where, hey, you get this one, then you've got a really big game on Friday. And, the
Minnesota at home.
Yeah, Minnesota
in-season tournament game.
In-season tournament, which is the NBA Cup game.
The Emirates Cup.
Yeah, the Emirates NBA Cup. There we go. And then, then the next day,
the in-season tournament.
There we go. Then the next day, you come back and you play the Utah Jazz. Like, are we going to see a repeat where you beat a good team on a Friday night, but Saturday you don't have it, and we're going to start talking about back-to-backs and stuff like that again? That's just not the way a winning team operates.
Get this one against the Suns in a vacuum, in a season-long vacuum. Depending on how much you care about the in-season tournament, you can afford to drop one to the Timberwolves. If just in this world,
it would cost you the season series because you lost the opener.
That's a good point. But either way, follow me. Win the Suns game. Let's call Timberwolves a toss-up. Then you get Utah and the Hawks.
Okay.
2 very winnable games.
Yep. You
get the Clippers, which, like you said yesterday during the Insiders, which airs 10 a.m. to noon every day on ESPN 1320, sponsored by Jiffy Lube. Maybe the Clippers are just a tough matchup, but I don't think the Kings are going to shoot 3 of 26 from 3 again.
No,
hopefully not. I feel pretty good about that. So that's a game you can get, but let's call it a toss-up. But then you get the Nets. And you have, to your point here, you have a chance to get on starting tonight, you have a chance to get on like a 5 or 6 game winning streak before you go play Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
And then you have to go to Minnesota. So stacking up some wins now and getting a toss-up game like one against the Suns is a really, really good way to start building in that direction that you're talking about, where this isn't a team that's just hovering around 500. Like, no, this is a team that's now 5 games over and now 6 games over. Oh, and then before you know it, look, they're 10 games over. It has to start against teams like Phoenix, though, especially because you may not face a worse version of Phoenix this year.
Nope.
So go get this one now.
Yeah, this is what you got to get, especially with them with no Durant.
Yeah, man, that's just it. Brad Beal, fine player, probably miscast in the role that he's in without Kevin Durant. Devin Booker, really good player. Tyus Jones, fine.
Yeah,
it's like, man, the Kings are the more talented team, and they need to go win tonight, especially with Phoenix on the back end of a road back-to-back.
That's right.
Got to go get him in. All right, Sacramento Kings starters, nothing new. Fox, Herter, DeRozan, Murray, and Sabonis. Tyus Jones starting at the point for the Suns. Devin Booker, Bradley Beal,
Ryan Dunn.
Ryan Dunn, thank you. Chris Dunn was the only name in my head, but that wasn't right. And Mason Plumlee. Plumlee likely starting for the Suns.
He started last night and he had a double-double.
You're a big Mason Plumlee guy.
Yeah, I just think he's one of the better backups in the league.
Yeah,
like a backup center that can run your system. Yeah, I am a Plumlee fan.
Malik Monk is out tonight. He'll be reevaluated in a couple weeks. Of course, that came out yesterday. Orlando Robinson getting closer to a return, but he's also out tonight. Devin Carter out until at least January. We already said for the Suns, Kevin Durant with the left calf injury is out. And then Yusuf Nurkic is dealing with something. He didn't play last night.
I think it's an ankle injury that he re-aggravated against the Kings. He only played 8 minutes against the Kings on Sunday. He did not play last night, and I wouldn't be totally shocked if he misses this game. If you can miss a game against Sabonis and save your body and make Mason Plumlee take that abuse,
you go deal with it, Mace.
Yeah, and we won't know on the Suns injury report until later. I think they have until 12:30 to put in their injury report because they played last night.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an off day, you have to put it out like yesterday by 5:00. But for the rest of the league, I
think the big thing for the Kings tonight, it's going to come down to, and we'll talk keys to victory and all that coming up, but it's the 3-point line. It's the story of the season, and until it's not an issue anymore, it's going to be the thing every game. Until they string together a bunch of games or have a stretch of 15, 20, 25 games where they're not shooting 30% from three,
mm-hmm.
and they're not getting outscored by 40 at the free throw line or at the 3-point line.
Yeah.
It's I don't it's the single biggest question for the Kings every single game.
Yeah, I totally agree. On average, you're getting outscored by 15 points at the 3-point line.
I mean
that means that you're not hitting enough, and also means you're giving up too many. And the last time they played Phoenix, Grayson Allen was a non-factor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that will be the case tonight. Grayson Allen is way too good of a shooter, especially against a team that doesn't typically defend the 3-point line all that well. Like, the Kings are going to have to figure some things out tonight.
I'm kind of interested to see. They put up 57 threes in their last game against the Kings in that overtime game. I'm interested to see if that's just their strategy against the Kings. Is that just what they're going to do? They're just going to chuck a bunch of threes.
Oh, I'm going to
and hope for the best.
I guarantee you they're going to chuck a bunch of threes, but it really does depend on, how well the Kings adjust. And, you're in your home gym. Like, this is, again, they're not a good home team yet,
mm-hmm.
which is
it's 2-2 this year at home.
Yeah, it's baffling. It's baffling how this team is slightly above 500 at home last year and the year before. It's just, like, you got to be better at home.
Also, their wins at home are against the Blazers and the Raptors.
Yeah.
Yeah, beat a good team at home. The Suns still qualify as a good team for me. They're a beat-up version of themselves, but
they're 9-2. They lead the West.
They're 9-2 in the number 1 seed. I'm confident calling them a good team. You're welcome for that kind of insight. Matchup of the game?
Let's see. I've got Booker versus Keegan.
That's the one for me. Sabonis and Plumlee. Okay, Sabonis is a way better player. That's a matchup he should go dominate. All due respect to Mason Plumlee. You said it earlier. He's a really good backup. I totally agree.
Yep.
If you need him playing 25 plus minutes, I think eventually a player like Sabonis kind of takes over that matchup.
He's going to have to play 30 plus minutes tonight. But remember last time they played, they had to start the third quarter with Plumlee. And Sabonis turned the ball over 6 times overall, but 4 times in that quarter. Could not adjust to Plumlee at all. Plumlee just kept stripping the ball, knocking it out of bounds off Sabonis's leg, and was not a good look.
Booker versus Keegan is the one, though.
Yeah.
Because if the Suns are going to stick around in this game, it's because Devin Booker has 40.
I totally agree.
Yep. So we'll have keys to victory and plenty more on the Kings-Suns game coming up. We'll also take a little bit of a look around the NBA. He's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. We are sponsored by Jiffy Lube here on ESPN 1320. It's Sacramento Sports Leader. I broke too early.
Oh, all right.
Not the end of the world.
Sean, I haven't seen this that Beal is not looking to play either. That would be pretty substantial. I think the Kings are favored by 6. When it says -6, that means that's they're favored by that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the open. I think actually a lot of them are 7.5 at this point. I think that's where it's at. Interesting. Oh, it opened at 6 and now it's up to 7.5. Huh. Yeah, Bradley Beal is always day to day. We're all day to day, but Bradley Beal more than the most of us.
I gotta tell you, all-time brilliant idea by me.
Oh? You just had one? Like an epiphany moment?
No. Purple and black.
Oh. Sorry, we're quiet today. What's happening, everyone?
Are we? Or are we busy?
No. We are busy.
Really? I don't know, man. Second night of a back-to-back. Especially if Beal doesn't play. That's why you should listen when I'm on D'Lo and Casey, because I gave you Klay Thompson more than 8.5 3-point attempts, Karl Anthony Towns more than 36.5 points, rebounds, and assists, and Joel Embiid less than 39.5 points, rebounds, assists, and you would have been a big winner. You're all welcome.
I'm going to send you something.
Okay. Was it already?
Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. All right. We're good.
Yeah, Embiid and Paul George are out against Cleveland. Oh, maybe I read it wrong the first time.
It's so crazy to me that the NHL season is just happening. Like, there are people who sit around talking about the NHL the way we talk about the NBA, and it just doesn't exist to me.
It does. Same thing.
Like, I follow the Sharks. Like, I keep up on what Macklin Celebrini's doing, and whether they're interesting at least.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just there's like an entire ass league with takes and opinions and injuries and trades and signings that I am just oblivious to.
Yep. It's totally bizarre. And
I like hockey. Like the game is fun. I just don't have the bandwidth to follow it that closely.
it's funny. You and I are very similar in what we watch.
Hang on. I gotta manually do this. Here we go.
Now, back to the Insiders with James Ham and Kyle Madsen. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320.
And we're doing this on the fly. It's fine.
Is that new music?
So I don't think this one's in our rotator. Yeah.
Huh.
You like that one?
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Shout out to BTS. It's a BTS boot.
There we go.
No, we were talking about at the break. And if you would like to hang out with us during the breaks, please drop in at youtube.com/ESPN1320 or twitch.tv/ESPN1320, because when we play commercials on the radio, we're not actually on break.
No, we're just chilling.
We're chilling. I'm taking care of some stuff back here, but we're hanging out with the chatty house. We're talking about how wild it is that the NHL season is just going, and I'm oblivious to it.
Yeah, and I was saying that I think it's really interesting that our interests in sports align.
Mm-hmm.
Like neither one of us are big hockey guys. Neither one of us watch a ton of college football. Like if college football's on, I'll watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not like searching out and watching every college football game.
Oh, see, I do. I get up on Saturdays and I find whatever the best game is and I turn it on.
Okay.
But I'm not.
And then I watch soccer.
Sure.
So
I do not.
So we do have some variance in what we do, but I think for the most part, it's very hyper focused on local Sacramento Kings, San Francisco 49ers, some Warriors for you. We both follow the A's.
Yeah.
So
we're going to sprinkle in some Raiders there. Yeah. It's just very like, that's where I was super into the Sharks when I was younger because I've always preferred basketball, but the Warriors were terrible and the Sharks were awesome. And so like, all right, you can watch the team that's going to get housed by 25, or you can watch this team that might go win the Stanley Cup. It's like, sure. Yeah, I'm going to do that. And so I watched hockey, but as I got older and as I started doing radio shows, starting in college, really, and it was like, oh, nobody watches hockey. Like people, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. The interest level isn't the same for hockey as it is with the NBA or college football or the NFL. And so hockey just kind of fell by the wayside for me. So this is not a disrespect thing. If you ask me, like, do you want to go to I am there. I love watching hockey. You're like, not even go to a game. Do you want to grab a beer and watch the Sharks tonight? I'm down. I'm going to have some questions. I might not know all the players on the team, but like, I'm down. Right. So it is just wild to me, though, that I am so disconnected from that sport. Like, that is a whole other league where games and transactions and trades and records are being broken and all this stuff. And I'm just like, it makes me realize when, like, during Super Bowl Sunday, there are people who don't watch the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah.
Which is insane to me.
My mom watches the Super Bowl. She never watches another game the entire year. She doesn't even know who anyone is.
Right. Just oblivious.
Oblivious.
And that's how, like, I always wonder, but it's like, just like I am with the NHL. I know what the teams are. I know the kind of like big name players. I know who Connor McDavid is. But like, I couldn't tell. You asked me, hey, who's the best team in NHL right now? I'd be like, no idea.
I have no idea.
Couldn't tell you.
Nope. It's okay, Kyle.
It's just where it is. It just exists over there. Salute to the NHL and to hockey fans, though. We got some Niners news to get into, but before we do that, now let's get to the Niners stuff. Deommodore Lenoir, out of nowhere, 49ers breakout star cornerback, got paid yesterday.
Super paid.
5 years, $92 million. I believe Jordan Schultz from Fox Sports was the first person to report that deal. It was later confirmed by Jeremy Fowler at ESPN. I don't want to say it's shocking, not because I didn't think Lenoir was going to get this kind of contract. One, I'm shocked that not really shocked the 49ers did it.
Mhm.
I'm shocked he did it.
Oh,
Because I think with the type of year he's having, with his versatility, his ability to play the run, he was going to get paid in free agency. I think he would have gotten north of $20 million annually if he had hit the free agent market. Or $20 million or north of there annually if he had hit the free agent market.
okay.
And he signs with the 49ers instead for, we haven't seen the structure of the deal yet. That's very important. But for $18.4 million annually.
I like the deal. I don't understand. Again, this is not something the 49ers do. So for them to go in and figure out a way to like sign a guy right now, like it just felt like they're the team that waits and waits and waits all the time. And this guy got his money early. And that's why I think he said yes. Because if you go to him now and say, look, we got another 9 weeks left in the season and then potentially a few games after that, like if you get injured, that money you could make a ton this summer, but you can also take a step back if there's a major injury between now and the end of the season. So how about we come up with a number that makes sense for everybody?
Right.
And why the 49ers don't do this more often, I have no idea, because it's so stressful for everybody involved. It's so stressful for the organization to drag these things out every single time. And then you have diminishing returns the whole first half of the season with some of these guys. I mean, unfortunately, Brandon Ayuk got hurt, but last year it was Bosa who just didn't look like himself after holding out. Trent Williams was good, but not great out of the jump, off the jump. And he's worked his way back into game shape now, but that's not typically the way that you want to run a business, where you're always in recovery mode and never in like sort of building mode.
So that's the interesting part of this. Is they got a deal done early with Dre Greenlaw, right? They got Dre Greenlaw on a bargain contract compared to what he would have gotten if he hit free agency. But he was dealing with some injury stuff. I think they signed him to that in the 21 offseason, so going into 22. And then 22 was when he really like broke out.
Yeah.
So they got him right in there while he had some injury stuff and was a little bit of a question mark going into free agency. So they got him done early. They got that extension out of the way. With Lenoir, the surprise to me is not that the 49ers were willing to do this deal now. It's that he was willing to do it. That he was willing to agree to this, knowing that, hey man, you might be leaving $8+ million on the table.
Yeah.
And it might just be a matter of he likes being with the 49ers. It might be a matter of his agent was going, yeah, hey, you know what? I've been asking around and this is probably about what you're looking at. And like you just said, you don't want to run the risk of getting hurt and having that impacted. So I didn't think there was any chance. I thought they would try. I didn't think there was any chance Deommodore Lenoir was going to agree to a contract before testing the free agent market. And that they got this deal done is really significant. And it brings two things to mind for me. The first one, that my first reaction to this was they're changing how they build their defense. I think we're seeing the 49ers philosophically change how they want to build their team.
Okay.
Under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, they have been a front-to-back defense. That is, they start at the defensive line, and they want that group to be dominant. Then they fell backwards into Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, 3rd and 5th round draft picks, who are when they're healthy, they're 2 of the 8 or 10 best linebackers in the sport.
Yep.
And you have them patrolling the second level. Okay, now this is a front 7 based just monster. And when that's the case, when you have a defensive line like they had in 2019 and linebacker play like they had in 2019, you can get away with just secondary play. Right? It's just the math.
Yeah.
They have to cover for less time. They have to be less good. They have to be adequate. They can't be terrible. But the less time the quarterback has to throw, the less time they have to cover, the easier it is to play corner.
Yep.
Okay. There's also the philosophy of, well, build back to front. Have a really good secondary that can cover and give your defensive line more time to get home.
Of course, the coverage sack.
Yes.
Yeah.
We see them all the time.
Yep.
We see the 49ers get a bunch of them this year because their secondary is really good. I think what the 49ers are realizing is that they fell backwards they got so lucky to get Nick Bosa. Not just that 4-12 in the 18 season. So Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt.
Yep.
In week 3. They end up going 4-12. 4-12 was the second pick in that draft. And then the Cardinals, who had just drafted a quarterback the year before, decided to draft a quarterback again. Instead of taking Nick Bosa, Bosa falls to 2, the Niners take him. Like they just kind of fell into that.
Yeah.
Then they already had DeForest Buckner, they already had Eric Armstead. They bring in D Ford, and everyone's gonna go, D Ford. When D Ford was on the field in 2019, he was awesome.
Yep.
He was really, really good.
Problem is he couldn't stay on the field for
Trade was
3 years.
It wound up being a disaster big picture, but for the 2019 season when he was on the field, he was really good. So I think they're realizing they have Nick Bosa under contract. He's been paid.
Mm-hmm.
They've already had to get rid of Eric Armstead. They couldn't afford to go get a defensive lineman in a big-time defensive lineman in free agency. They know Javon Hargrave is, if he's not gone after this year, he's not going to be the player that they were hoping they were getting when they signed him in free agency.
Oh, yeah, there's no way he's sticking around for the same money.
No chance.
Yep.
So I don't want to say no chance. Very, 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 very small chance. But they've now traded for Randy Gregory and who's the other? Chase Young, and they brought in Leonard Floyd, who's not been great, and Yetur Gross-Matos, who they brought in, has been hurt. And they drafted Drake Jackson in the 2nd round. That's been a disaster. They drafted Robert Beal in the 5th round. That's been a disaster. The Charles Omenihu thing worked. That was great. Jordan Willis, it was fine. I'm naming a bunch of defensive ends right now.
Yeah.
Who's the other one? Arden Key. Arden Key worked out great. As a player they brought in, he played this great role. He went and got paid, revitalized his career. That they haven't really done that with anybody else. And I think they're realizing that that's really hard to do. And with their financial constraints, sorry for rambling, with their financial constraints, they can't go get the defensive end talent that they need if they're going to have this awesome defensive line, this awesome pass rush. They're not going to be picking high enough in the draft to go get a premium edge rushing talent.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, they have Renardo Green on a rookie contract. Oh, you can get Deommodore Lenoir, who looks like a Pro Bowler this year, maybe an All-Pro.
25 years old.
25-year-old, just turned 25, by the way, at 18.4. You have Malik Mustafa you feel good about. You have Jair Brown you feel good about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, maybe this is a secondary first team now. And now they'll have Nick Bosa, and they'll just try and supplement that with just okay edge rushers and maybe a deeper pass rush instead of that like really high-end talent, because that's way harder to find.
What it looks like to me too is that they sort of stumbled into this idea that like we can't afford an Eric Armstead, but what we can afford is Malik Collins and Gross-Matos, and name that middle of the road. Even when at the trade deadline they go out and
Khalil Davis,
right? So let's stack up like 2 or 3 guys, maybe 5 guys in the middle that we can just interchange. And maybe one of them we get on a heater and he starts sacking the quarterback and we find something. But if not, let's go with the $6 to $8 million range, but multiples as like big money guys in the middle. And that will save us money to go do other things. So I think that the real change may have come in the middle. It's almost like how they handle the middle of their offensive line, their guards and their centers, and even their right tackle to a certain degree. But their guards and their centers, they're just middle of the road, 6th-round picks, 5th-round picks. You know, if they work out, they work out. If they've got to go get a journeyman and plug him in, okay, he fits our system. You know, so they're finding that middle is where they can save all this cash to go pay all the specialty guys.
Correct.
And this to me, like it just match them up. Bosa and Trent Williams, that they're going to spend money on those 2 major positions. But the receiver, the cornerback and receiver, Ayuk, and now we have Lenoir getting his money. You're seeing how they're sort of mirroring their contracts on the opposite side of the ball, where, you know, your specialty guys are going to get paid, but the real specialty guys on this team, the Christian McCaffreys and Fred Warners, you're going to keep those guys around, and you're going to put pieces around them that you hope that will work. But realistically, it's about having like the best at these specific positions possible. And then everybody else is kind of run of the mill. Let's see what we can get out of somebody.
Yeah. It's like you always talk about it. Bear with me if you're not a fantasy football person, but it's like you always talk about with fantasy football. you don't want the ceiling and high ceiling, low floor guys. You shoot for like the middle.
I want everyone on my team to score 10 points every week or a little bit more.
You don't need hey, he might score, Alec Pierce might score 25, might score 2.
Yep.
Like you're not looking for that.
I'm not a boon or bust guy.
I think that's how the 49ers are treating their defensive line now.
Yep.
Nick Bosa is going to be awesome. And like you said, if they draft a defensive end in the first round this year with the 20th pick or wherever they end up picking, if they draft a defensive end and that player's awesome, cool. They'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think you're going to see as heavy of an investment in the defensive line because they now are they're running out of cap space long term.
Yeah.
But B, they already have 2 really high quality corners in the building. Well, 3 if you count Travarius Ward, but I don't think he's going to be around long term now. But Renardo Green, their rookie 2nd round pick, that's the highest they've ever taken a cornerback in the draft.
That's crazy.
It was this year with Renardo Green, and he's been awesome. He's been really, really good. And so they're looking at Lenore, 25, Green, 22, 23 maybe. I don't know exactly how old he is, but in his early 20s, and they're going, oh, this can just be an awesome tandem moving forward. The second thing the Diamador Lenore contract could signal, and Joe Shasky from 95.7 The Game, shoulder, shout out. He brought this up, and I thought this was an interesting point. This could mean that they have parameters for a Brock Purdy deal like in place. Like they have the idea of, okay, this is going to be the ballpark. We know that we're okay with this structure. He's okay with this structure. It's just going to come down to like a few dollars here and there, or a few dollars, quote unquote, a couple million here and there. And this will be in general what the contract looks like long term. So that's why they're cool going out and adding Diamador Lenore to this contract. Now I saw Scooter in the chat ask, why did they do this with Lenore but not with Ayuk? You knew you were going to pay Ayuk. Why didn't you get this done last year? Because I think they didn't know what Brock Purdy's deal was going to look like.
I think they also didn't know that the receiving market was going to go bonkers.
That's also true.
They could have predicted some of it, but again, you've got Debo on a pretty high-end deal at like 22, 23 million bucks.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't think that they were going to, just blow the top off.
You didn't think everybody was going to start getting 30 a year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Around 30, 28 to 30, whatever. Yeah. Like really, really bizarre.
Yeah. So
it's tough. I mean,
I was stunned they did the Diamador Lenore deal.
And the reason why they're not doing a Brock Purdy deal now is they're not allowed to, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
the day when the clock hits 0-0-0 in the 4th quarter of week 18, mm-hmm. He is eligible to get a contract.
Okay.
So theoretically, if they make the playoffs, they're not getting the 1 seed, so they'll play on wildcard weekend. They could theoretically, between the end of week 18 and the start of the playoffs,
mm-hmm.
sign Brock Purdy to an extension.
And I think we all kind of expect something like that to happen, right? I don't think this is going to go into the offseason. I would hope.
Now this, let me caveat this. There's room for this to change.
Mm-hmm.
There's room for this to be different, because I don't think this will happen, but if Purdy over the final, how many games do they have left? Are they 5-4? So they got 8 games left.
Yep.
Over their final 8 games, if he throws 10 touchdowns and 17 interceptions,
mm-hmm.
okay, that changes things. But if he's just kind of what he's been all year, and he's good, and they make the playoffs, they go 10-7, and they make the postseason, I have a really hard time believing the 49ers are going to penny pinch and scratch and claw to try and get every dime, especially when Purdy has 1 more year left on his deal.
Uh-huh.
I think they don't want. Of course, I thought this was Brandon Ayuk too. The difference is there's not a bunch of quarterbacks that are going to get paid. All the quarterbacks who were going to get paid have gotten paid, because remember, his draft class is ass.
Oh yeah, every single one of them is on a different team now, right?
So,
there's one more except Trevor.
Skylar Thompson.
Oh, okay.
Skylar Thompson was Trevor Lawrence's the year before.
Oh,
Skylar Thompson, who was also drafted in the 7th round by the Dolphins, is still on the Dolphins.
Those are the only two quarterbacks.
I think that's the only two. There might be one more that I'm missing.
That's crazy.
But Kenny Pickett's gone. Malik Willis is gone.
Yeah, they've all moved on to different teams.
I think that's it. I think it's just Skylar Thompson and Brock Purdy, which is nuts.
That's absolutely.
But the Trevor
crazy.
Lawrence draft, if you go the year before, there's only like 3 or 4 quarterbacks total between those two drafts that are still with their current their teams. Trevor Lawrence is, but then it went Zach Wilson gone, Trey Lance gone, Justin Fields gone, Mac Jones gone.
It kept going. Like most of those are gone. Like most of the players, I think it's only 1 or 2 that are remaining with their original team.
Quarterbacks or players?
Quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's not a lot over those 2 drafts, but I can't imagine, because the Ayuk thing was so different, because it was Devontae Smith got paid and Amon-Ra St. Brown got paid and AJ Brown got a new deal, got a new extension. CeeDee Lamb had to get paid. There was the Justin Jefferson contract everybody was kind of waiting on.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Waddle got paid. There were just all these deals that came down. And I think the 49ers were kind of, it sounded like they were close on a deal early in the offseason, but they couldn't get it exactly right. And then all of a sudden, all these contracts started blowing up.
Oh, yeah.
And it changed the conversation. That's not going to be the case with Brock. They know. Okay, 60 to 65 is the range. And here's how it's going to be structured. So that's the other thing, is I think they got this Lenore deal done because they know they have a better picture of what their cap situation is going to look like with a top of the market quarterback inserted into it.
So to compare this with what the Kings are going through, because they've got their own rookie scale deal that they're going to have to work out this summer with Keegan Murray.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Purdy has done enough to be a $60 million a year guy? Or do you think it could come back down to maybe a $50 million a year deal? Because I keep looking at Keegan Murray and thinking, oh, he's going to get max money for rookie scale deal, which is like 30, 31.
Yeah.
Right? That's what he keeps, I keep thinking. But then you start looking, you're like, okay, he's shooting 28% from the field. He's only averaging 13.5 points per game. Like, I think all of these numbers will look different by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. But right now.
Yeah, but clearly the Kings don't want to, like, spend as much money as they have to every single time, but still you think, okay, he's probably a max guy, just looking at other players in the previous drafts. Do you think that there is a possibility that, again, as opposed to Keegan Murray being a $30 million a year guy, maybe right now he's a $25 million a year guy? And do you think the same thing with Purdy, but in NFL standards?
Yeah, it's kind of weird because they both have it's not apples to apples because they affect the game so differently.
Yeah.
One's the quarterback who has the ball on every single offensive play. But it's a little bit the same deal where you look at Brock and you go, okay, knee-jerk reaction, that's a top of the market guy.
Uh-huh. I'm
going to use the phrase max money just as a bridge here.
Okay.
There's not a max contract in the NFL, but for purposes of this, so everybody knows, I'm going to say max money, fully knowing there's no such thing as a max deal in the NFL. Okay. So you look at Brock on a knee-jerk reaction, you go, yeah, max money player. Same thing with Keegan. On the surface, you're going, yes, max money.
Mm-hmm.
But then you'll have a game like he had the other night in San Antonio. It's like, is he?
Yeah.
And then Brock will have a game like he had against
Minnesota. Is that who it was?
Minnesota, he turned it over a couple times. Baltimore last year.
Okay.
Turned it over a bunch of times. He'll have just a bad game. Like he has bad games. He'll have a bad game and you go, ooh, maybe not. Maybe he's not that dude.
Yeah.
But when, like you said, by the end of the year and when you take the collective and you take a look at the market and what because the market kind of dictates a lot of this, maybe Brock is self-aware and goes, hey, you know what? I need players like, he's not going to have Christian McCaffrey for super long, but I need players like McCaffrey and Kittle and Ayuk and Debo to really be like super successful in this league.
Yep.
So I'm going to help them out. I'm going to do the Tom Brady thing. I'll take 50. Maybe, but if he wants top of market money, I think the 49ers are going to give it to him because I think they think that highly of him.
No, I think they do too. Yeah, I mean, I think they believe
honestly,
he's the guy.
I think the Kings feel the same way about Keegan.
Yeah, it puts you in a really interesting situation. You would hope that maybe they would at least listen a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and like, hey, if we're going to build this thing out, we need help here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, again, if you're, let's say you're making 30 million, but if you drop that back to 25, that gives us 2 veteran scale contracts that we can sign
We
in
just saw
addition
Jalen Brunson
to
do this
every year. Yeah. And so maybe you get to that point. But I also think like that it's your third contract where you really, really make the money in the NBA. And in the NFL, it looks like, most quarterbacks are making that money second contract without any question.
Yeah.
And Purdy's had to wait and he's made nothing. And
Mhm.
so I don't begrudge the guy at all. If he gets, the most he can possibly make, it
He
is what
saved
it
Kyle
is.
Shanahan and John Lynch's job.
Oh, yeah.
But straight up.
Yeah.
Trey Lance is not it. I'm sorry. Trey Lance is not good.
Yeah.
Even if he had played a bunch. I am not super confident that he would have taken the 49ers where they wanted to go, and they'd be looking at a not great team with no quarterback options, and they just traded all these assets for this guy that didn't work out. They avoided that because Brock has been really good.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, we'll dive back into the Kings. We'll dive more into this 49er stuff as well coming up. We'll also go around the NBA because the NBA in-season tournament, the Emirates Cup, the NBA Emirates Cup, whatever the heck it's called, the in-season tournament began last night, and it was a ton of fun. I'm all in. We'll tell you why next on ESPN 1320. We're the Insider, sponsored by Jiffy Lube. It's Sacramento Sports Leader. Okay. I need to fix this.
Go for it. I'll talk to the good people. So David Jackson, like quick math, 5 into 230 million. What is that? 46 million a year. That's 2022. The contracts have gone up, and like look at the Dak Prescott deal. Like he got paid. A lot of these guys get paid, and I think Purdy stats like his numbers are down a little bit this year. But he's also like sixth in the
He's
NFL
affecting
in passing.
winning.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, obviously not. They're only 5-4. He's affecting games more than he did last year, I think.
Yeah, I think he's been better. Let me see. Wasn't going to look at wins and losses. How many games do the Bengals have? The Bengals are a game ahead. So they've played 10 and the Niners have played 9. And Joe Burrow currently leads the NFL in passing yards, but he's only up on some of these guys because he's played an extra game. So, like, look, he's putting up stats. The touchdowns aren't there. He's got 11 passing touchdowns, 7 picks. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns. There are quarterbacks with a ton more, but I still think he's.
This is it. This is the and salute to David Jackson. Good. If a team thinks they have a franchise quarterback, he's getting paid.
Oh yeah.
Bottom line.
Yep.
I rock with the argument though of like, hey, why does anyone make more money than Patrick Mahomes? The guy has 3 Super Bowl rings.
Yeah, no one should. But I also don't think he asked for all of the money.
No, he did not.
Yeah.
But if I'm a team, I'm going like, hey, here's this guy's resume. Here's what he makes. We can be in that ballpark.
Yeah, it's totally. Franz Wagner, he got 5 and 225. I don't. Okay, so the only way he got that is if he had a special, if he was like an all-star or something, which I don't think he was. The Supermax for rookies, the max rookie scale is different. So a standard is like a 5-year 164 is what Fox got, right? So it's a starting salary of around 30 million. I'm not saying Wagner didn't get that. I'd have to look at why he got that. Because you can't just give guys those contracts. He's all rookie. Let me see. Orlando Magic.
Franz Wagner.
again, I'm going to their salary. Franz Wagner. Yeah, he did get paid. That's not the money Keegan's getting. The 38, 41, 44, 47. I need to know why he was able to get that contract. Anyway. I think you're going to see the standard rookie scale, max rookie scale extension.
1 minute. Yeah, the only just to put a bow on this, and maybe we can revisit it later. But the only way I think Brock Purdy doesn't get $60+ million is if he says to the 49ers, like, I will take less than that.
Yeah, and he's been racking up the endorsement deals.
Yeah,
so maybe he does take a little bit less.
The thing that the game against the Rams, where he didn't have Kittle or Debo or McCaffrey, and they lost that game, but he played really well. That was a. I think that's a pretty significant deal for him.
Yeah. So Wagner's deal can go up to 269 if he makes All NBA.
Keep this up and we can dive into it. Hour number 2, that's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. We're rocking with you until noon. Then we will hand it off to D-Lo and KC. They will take you up to 4 o'clock, and that's when the Purple and Black pregame show begins. You can listen to that 4 o'clock on most days the Kings have home game or have games.
Mm-hmm.
Weekday games?
Yeah, weekday games. No weekends.
Yeah, weekday games. You can get the Purple and Black pregame show right here on ESPN 1320. That begins at 4 o'clock as James and I get you ready for the Sacramento Kings game against the Phoenix Suns tonight. I'll put a pin in that game for a bit, though. I'm in on the in-season tournament.
We were so in on it last year, and I just kept remembering us talking about every single time there's a vibe about it. There's something different about it.
Can I tell you what it is?
What?
It's the courts.
You think it's the court?
It's the courts. You can complain about them. You can tell me they're ugly. The Celtics one was hard to watch. The Celtics court, it's green. It's like Kelly green. And it's just a tough look. But it gives an air of importance to the game.
Yeah.
Whether you like the court or not, while I was watching the game, first of all, I had the Warriors-Mavs game on the TV last night. My wife, not a sports fan, first thing she noticed, she was like, oh, that court's weird. Like, the game came on the TV, first thing out of her mouth was, oh, the court's weird. Like, ew, gross. It's like, no, you may hate it, but that's why it feels different. It feels like you're in this, like, because every court gives off this, like, kind of darker vibe.
It does. It's way darker.
Yes. And so it feels like, it's like, okay, lock in. Everything on this court is so important. And because I was watching last night, and I know the Warriors game specifically had a greater air because it was Clay's return to San Francisco, and I think that was part of the vibe.
Mm-hmm.
But when you watched around the league last night, every single one of those games just feels a little bit different, and it's because you're not mentally going, oh, this is an in-season tournament game. I am fired up to see how group play begins. No, nobody's doing that.
Nope.
You're watching and you're going, oh, this is different because of the court. And that's it.
Yeah, but the games they feel more important, and the games have been better. Like, we had a bunch of 1-point games last night. We had a bunch of upsets last night. Like, everything just feels like it's amped up, and I enjoy it. Like, I it's totally different. Like, when you walk on to the court at Golden One Center, typically Golden One Center is so bright
on Friday.
Yeah, but a regular game, the court is a very light wood.
Mhm.
And so the lights hit it and it lights up the entire room. Like that place beams because a lot of it is
Nice.
the reflection off the court. It like brightens the room.
Mhm.
When you go to the dark court, it does. It makes everything feel like a little bit more dark and a little more intimate.
It feels like this is going to be so dumb, and this comment is going to appeal to not that big of a percentage of the audience. It might. I don't know. Here we go. I'm just going to say it. It feels like you're inside of a pillow fort.
Oh,
You know, as a kid when you'd make a pillow fort,
yeah.
and you felt like, oh, this is like yes, I love
Yep.
being inside this pillow fort.
Mhm.
You're in your house, you're just at home, but it feels different because it's darker. You're more inclined. That's exactly how those courts make the arenas feel.
Well,
Like a pillow fort.
and that's why I
Salute to everyone who rocks with that.
I
metaphor.
totally understand what you're saying. It does. It feels like a little more like I said, intimate, a little more closed in for some reason. And it's why, like when we talk about going to Staples Center and watching very specifically the Lakers,
Mhm.
the Lakers use a very, very yellowed wood.
Mhm.
Like that's the court is like it has this light brown, yellowish
Yes.
gold.
Like a
right?
goldenrod tint.
Yeah, and then when they hit it with lights, the lights are also a yellow. So it puts off almost like you're in a movie scene.
And they darken the stands.
The lights don't go way up high in the stands. The stands are very dark. So the front like 10 rows where all the famous people are all lit up in this beautiful like golden light that makes them look better. Like it does. It makes everything look
It's why
more
every
appealing.
game, it's why every Lakers game at Staples or crypto.staples feels important.
It does.
Even when they're ass.
When they're not good, it still feels important.
Crazy.
I think you feel it like the whole time when you walk in there. Walking into, I highly suggest to anyone go down and catch a Kings Lakers game. It's a great environment. It is. So
We should make a trip.
I'm here for it.
All right.
We should
Do
also
a little Airbnb.
see if we can do Disneyland while we're there.
I'm
you
so
know?
down.
Yeah.
Jiffy
in.
Lube road trip. Let's go.
Yep.
Come on.
I'm here for it.
Come on. You mentioned some of the games from last night. So the first one I want to get to, because this was an all-time shocking NBA moment for me.
Uh-oh.
Eric Spoelstra forgot he was out of timeouts in a tie game with 1.8 seconds left. 2-point game. Tyler Hero hits a 3 to put the Heat up 2 late in the game. Seconds left. Detroit calls a timeout, advance the ball. Out of bounds play, just gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Just shout out to JB Bickerstaff. Awesome play. My Pistons go up, bang, tie the game.
Jalen Durham dunk.
Eric Spoelstra is so pissed that he storms onto the court, calls for a timeout. But wait, they don't have one.
He Chris Webbered it.
He Chris Webbered it.
Oh.
I'm so excited to show everybody this who has not seen it yet, Boz. He did that with, where are we at? There we go. Great Jalen Rose in the building.
Oh.
And here's Jalen Rose's reaction to Eric Spoelstra.
In time to be the man for this one. Jalen Rose. In time to be the
I gotta be
man
honest.
for this
Jalen
one.
Rose looks like a Simpson character right there.
Jalen
does.
Rose.
He does.
In time
Oh
to be
my
the
God,
man
that's
for
so
this
funny.
one.
Yeah, so Jalen Rose,
Jalen Rose.
who was on the Fab Five
It's
Michigan
time to
team
be the
where
man
Chris
for
Webber
this one.
infamously called a timeout he didn't have,
Jalen Rose.
watched his Detroit Pistons win a game
In
because
time to be the man
the best
for this
coach in
one.
the NBA called a timeout he didn't have.
Jalen
So
Rose.
they get the technical free throw.
In
Not
time to
called, I
be the
believe, Malik
man for
Beasley
this
took
one.
the technical free throw. They knock it
Jalen
home.
Rose.
They get the ball and they end
In
up
time
winning.
to be the man
I think it's
for
funny,
this
Kyle,
one.
if you
Jalen Rose.
we've heard Mike Brown talk about this in pregame and like during conversations about how when Jordy left, Jordy is the one who would sub people in and out. And I think everyone just automatically assumes, oh, the head coach is doing all the subbing and doing all of that.
Mhm.
And that's not the case. Like they need other people staying. They may say, "Hey, get me so and so. I want to swap guys." Like and I'm sure they do that throughout the game. But there's also times where they're like, no, like leave a guy in. And then there's times where you literally have an assistant coach who's sitting there.
It's like an offensive and defensive coordinator.
Yeah, it's someone who is playing off of like sort of your vibe and what they know of you, and it's instinctual a little bit, but it's also like you have intimate knowledge of your head coach, and this is what we do. We're gonna sub this guy at this point, but this guy's not doing it. Let's go ahead and so like not or switching those guys has been a bit of an issue early on because everyone has a different vibe with the coach. Everyone has a different understanding, or they feel like they have a different place in the world with a head coach. And so it makes sense. Like Eric Spoelstra, he doesn't always, when he calls a timeout, it's because someone said, okay, call a timeout. Typically, or you have 3 timeouts, so we're going to call one right now. Sometimes it's someone else's job to judge. Even we always say, oh, Mike Brown lost another challenge. Luke Lauk's lost a bunch of challenges, people.
There's definitely. My favorite one, though, this happens, I feel like I saw it twice last year, where there will be something that happens late in the game, and Mike doesn't look like over his shoulder and he's already signaling for it.
Yeah.
Like he's looking, but as a like he knows he's challenging that play no matter what. Like he's just challenging it.
Totally. And my point with Luke is got his other responsibilities, but one of his responsibilities is to judge where you are with your challenges versus your timeouts.
Yes.
Where Mike might not know how many timeouts he has in that moment. They look over like how many timeouts we got, or he'll look up and see it on the board.
Yeah.
But it's based off of like multiple factors. Like, oh, should we call one now or should we not?
There was a game last year where they literally I think it was against the Lakers, where they challenged a play. Might have been 2 years ago. Doesn't matter. Where they challenged a play that Mike did so out of like frustration, I think, and it wasted their last timeout.
Oh yeah.
I think it was against the Lakers.
I believe you might be right about that.
Like they would have needed that timeout and didn't have it because of it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So there are coaches who handle this kind of thing. But Eric Spoelstra took full responsibility after the game. He's like, I just got emotional. It's stupid. I've been doing this for 17 years. And I just got mad and called a timeout. I didn't man. If you had told me to list the coaches in the NBA who did that, Eric Spoelstra, bottom of the list.
Bottom of the list.
Like that's where I would have started. I'd have been like, well, let me start Spoelstra 30, Pop 29.
Yep.
After that, let's put him in some order.
Well, and the tough thing, too, is that Tyler Hero went crazy in that game. He had 10 threes.
Yeah.
He had 40 points. Tyler Hero was crazy good.
40 from Tyler Hero, and you lose.
And you lost that game.
And no shame in losing to the number 7 seed, 5-7 Detroit Pistons.
That's right.
My guys.
They're moving on up.
The Celtics beat the Hawks by 1. The Celtics, late game execution.
4.
Trying to inbound the ball, just threw it out of bounds.
Oh.
Like, man, the Celtics, really? So they lost to the Hawks at home. Look, so the Celtics lost to the Hawks. We'll get to the Kings and Suns here in a second. The Celtics lost to the Hawks, and the Timberwolves got smacked by the Blazers.
Crazy.
The Timberwolves lost by 14 in a game where they outscored the Blazers by 5 in the fourth quarter.
It's crazy. The Time Lord's back.
Shout out to Time Lord, Robert Williams.
Yeah.
Those games happen to every team. Sometimes you're going to lay an egg. So that's why when the Kings have a clunker, it's like, okay, that's kind of disappointing. But also, they're not the only team in the league that happens to.
Yeah, I mean,
it's good perspective. I have to remember that sometimes.
I know. The Hawks just beat the Celtics, and the Blazers beat the Timberwolves.
Yes.
It happens.
Sure does.
Yeah.
The Blazers didn't just... The Hawks beat the Celtics by 1. The Blazers beat the hell out of the Timberwolves.
Yeah, it was a 120-108.
122-108.
Yeah.
Robert Williams, salute. You said 19 points, 9 boards, 3 steals. Naz Reid, 28 points.
Check out that battle off the bench.
Oh, man.
Crazy.
Julius Randle, just 11 for the Timberwolves. Anthony Edwards, good night, 26 points, but no rebounds. Oh, my God. Yuck. Yeah, stuff happens, man. Tumani Kamara, our guy, 14 points last night.
Nice.
Hell yeah. Love Tumani Kamara. All right. Let's talk about the Kings. We'll get to some other NBA action from last night in a bit. But the Kings are at home tonight, taking on the Phoenix Suns. That's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. We are sponsored by Jiffy Lube. We mentioned the Kings already up 1-0 on the Suns. When you're talking about projecting out what the standings are going to look like, any season series you can win or take hold of against a Western Conference team is going to be a big deal. And this is a version of the Suns that is probably going to be the least challenging version of the Suns the Kings will ever face again this season. Kevin Durant's out. Yusuf Nurkic probably out. Bradley Beal might not play.
It's wild. This is a must-win game, man. This is again, you're coming off one of your worst losses.
Must win.
It is, because look, you have not been good at home. At some point, you have got to win at home. And if you're gonna drop, for every game you drop against a bad team, you got to win probably 2 against good teams.
That's a good point.
And this is one of those games where you're looking at 500 or you're looking at 7-5.
And again, viewing this through the lens of not just trying to sneak into the play-in. This is about, can you win 50-plus games?
Yeah, can you compete with the crazy Western Conference?
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you're going to lose to a sub-500 team, which the Spurs are,
yep,
you've got to go out and beat a team that's 9-2 and say, look, this is who we are. And now it opens up other questions for sure. But for me, this is one of those games where you're at home. Figure out the home court advantage.
They're on a second night of a road back-to-back. You're at home. That is the most advantageous spot you can be in.
And they flew in from Utah, which is not an easy short trip. I mean, it's a little bit of a short trip, but the NBA just keeps expanding what a short trip is. I mean, it's still like a 2.5-hour flight or something. But so, this team got in the middle of the night, like the Kings did in Toronto. Like, there are some things here that they've got to work through. But you're playing a shorthanded team and you just lost a bad game. You need to get right game against a good team.
Can you lock in and get right? Like that is you'll take a win however you can get it. The famous Kenny Caraway JWTDG, obviously, that old adage. There's an element of that, but I would also like to see this is a spot you can kind of dominate.
Yeah.
And I would like to see him do it. So keys to a Kings victory, right here, James Ham, number 1.
It's another bounce back game, right? Like,
I hope so.
Like this can't keep being who you are this year. Like, we got to start figuring out who this team is and if they can start climbing, or if you're going to be around a 500 team the whole year. Because as of right now, a 500 team isn't going to make it to the playoffs at all. They're not going to be in the in-season tournament. I mean, the end of the season, the play-in. You're not going to be in the play-in if you're a 500 team. So, like, at some point, you got to start climbing up the ranks here, and this is the stretch. You got 3 games at home. Like, figure it out.
We were talking about during the Spurs game how they traded 3 for 2 several times down the stretch. Like, you're giving up a 3, and then cool, you're getting in for a mid-range jumper, but if you get outscored 3-2 on every possession, you're going to lose by a lot.
Yes, you are.
Right. So that kind of feels like how the season's been going. Like they're winning a game here, but then like losing a game they shouldn't lose, and then playing poorly. And it just feels like they're on this path that by the end of the year, like you said, we're looking at a team that's a few games over. And it's just like, hey, this isn't going to work.
No.
This playing bad against the Spurs and the Clippers, and okay, you get up for an overtime win against Phoenix, but then you lose another battle. That's not going to, at some point, you got to string some wins together. And it's going to mean beating teams, specifically like Phoenix, who are down, but then, like we talked about earlier, going and getting teams like Minnesota.
Yeah.
You got to start stacking wins. I think bouncing back tonight, but bounce back and continue moving forward from that. It can't be bounce back. Okay, look, we can win, and then fall asleep in the next game.
See, we did it. See, we beat Phoenix and we beat Minnesota in 2 days apart. Oh, but we lost to Utah. That can't be. If that's who you are, then I hate to tell you, that's a bad. It's not a great team.
Not a good formula.
Yeah.
Number 1 for me, run them out of the gym, man. Get up early and keep the foot on the gas. I would love to see the Kings, and they will at some point this year, but I would love to see them just go win a game by 30. They've dominated. They like the Portland game was never really in doubt. The Raptors game here at Golden One was never really in doubt. But I would love to see them just get up by 20 on a team in the first quarter and cruise.
Yeah, that would be nice, man. I don't know. Like, if you can't hit a 3-point shot, you're gonna have trouble getting that separation because other teams are, and you're not good at defending it either.
Yep.
So that's tough.
Number 2 for you.
The last time these two teams played, the Phoenix Suns launched 57 threes, and the Kings need to figure out an adjustment here. It's too much. Whatever they're doing on the defensive side of the ball, they're giving up way too many threes, and they're not hitting their threes, which is a huge issue for sure. But not being able to hit your threes, not being able to defend the three, you have to. There is an adjustment that has to come here because you can't just keep saying we have to do it better. There's something wrong structurally that's allowing every team in the league to take wide open shots against you.
Yeah.
And, at a certain point, you can't be 30th in the league in 3-point percentage and then give up, what is it? As of right now, the Kings are 28th in the league, allowing 37.6
Oh my God.
from three. So you can't allow the opposition to shoot 7.5% higher from three than you do. You cannot get outscored by 15 points per game from behind the arc and think that you're going to be competitive all season. That's just not the way it works.
And you brought this up earlier. They put 57 threes in the air.
It's wild.
But Royce O'Neal, good shooter, goes 2 for 7. Devin Booker just 3 for 10. Who's Grayson Allen, 3 for 11. If they put up 57 threes again, those are guys who are liable to hit more than 2 for 7, more than 3 for 11, more than 3 for 10, and all of a sudden you're in trouble.
Yeah, because there's a possibility that they go from 18 made threes to 27 made threes in that situation.
Yep.
If they're shooting 57,
on the table.
It's on the table.
Yep.
Especially with the Kings penchant for giving up the high shooting percentage.
My second key is in this vein, but on the other side of the floor. You have to stay in your offense. If the Phoenix Suns come out and connect on 7 of their first 9 threes, it cannot turn into DeMar DeRozan, De'Aaron Fox hero ball, where they're going ISO and it's Keegan standing in the corner and it's Kevin Huerter standing in the corner and it's Domas just kind of hanging out. It cannot turn into that at the start of at any point in the game. Okay, final minute of a half or a quarter. Okay, fine. But if they're going to, if they stay in their offense, they're keeping Keegan Murray involved. They're keeping Kevin Huerter involved. They're keeping Trey Lyles involved. They're keeping Keon Ellis involved. I think you're going to see better games from those guys. And if those guys are all contributing, they walk over Phoenix in this game.
Yeah, that would eliminate the need for a fourth quarter comeback.
Yeah, exactly.
Put this team away in the third, and the way you put them away in the third is by everybody playing together.
Yep.
Share the ball, get the assist rate back up.
Yep.
Whatever's happening here, move the ball.
Yeah, they had 23 assists on 50 made baskets last time against Phoenix.
That's not good enough.
It's definitely not.
Yeah. And this is one of the best assist teams in the league last season.
That's not to diminish what De'Aaron Fox can do one-on-one or what DeMar DeRozan does one-on-one, but smaller doses.
Yep.
Everything in moderation.
That's right.
Number 3.
For me, Sabonis has to clean it up. He's got 15 turnovers combined in his last 3 games, including 6 the last time they played Phoenix. Mason Plumlee got under his skin. Mason Plumlee was all over him. He needs to make an adjustment here, whatever it is, to protect the ball better. And, if he does that, he can run over this team. He can have a big, big night, but let's not discredit the fact that Plumlee is a very good defensive player, and he's a savvy vet, and he knows Sabonis's game very well. And he forced a lot of bad turnovers from Sabonis last time. Sabonis has to clean that up.
Do you think those turnovers are born out of trying to do too much offensively, or them not being in their offense and him trying to make plays from spots he's not used to doing so?
Yeah, I think a little bit of it is that. I also think he just needs to know that what's coming. Sure. If that guy is going to swipe it every time you go to the basket, he's going to swipe down, then move. Get fouled. Go to the line.
Yeah.
Hook him. And, throw your arms up in the air and demand that you get a foul call.
Yeah.
Don't just get the ball hit off your leg again and again.
Yep. Last one for me. If Bradley Beal's going to play, if he wants to play hero ball, go for it, dog. If Bradley Beal wants to take all their shots, okay. You got it.
you're game for it.
Sure. Because if that means it's Grayson Allen standing around and Royce O'Neal standing around and Devin Booker standing around, great.
Yep.
Let Bradley Beal cook.
I'm with you. That makes a lot of sense because a lot of what he did, and don't foul him. Don't put him on the line.
Yeah.
Because if you take that away from him, if you stay vertical and do not let him sit there and get to the line again and again, you're gonna crush him. Like he just throws the ball around and throws his body around like, oh my, he's like little mini Luka. Like if you can avoid fouling him and keep him off the line, don't let him get in a rhythm. You should be just fine.
Kings win tonight?
They should. I mean, they're favored by a ton. This is a game that, again, I think you've got to go out and get.
I am going to try this one more time. I think the Kings win like 125-106.
Yeah, I think this might be the game where they get hot and they go for 130 and 130, like 118, and they run away a little bit.
Right on. All right, he's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. We are sponsored by Jiffy Lube, and The Insiders is live on ESPN 1320 Sacramento Sports Theater every single day, 10 a.m. to noon. Again, that's right here, ESPN 1320 Sacramento Sports Theater. I don't know, man.
Spray the hot guys. There it is, right there. Yeah, I don't know if I jinxed them, but like, look, they've got to shoot the ball better, just straight up. And the interesting thing is they've started doing what I kept asking, like why they never do shoot around in the gym. Maybe they'll go back to their go back to the practice facility because they haven't had a bunch of success at home, but I don't know. Zach, you got suggestions. Okiki. Where's Okiki at this point? Okiki, Chuma Okiki. Is he on a team? I don't think he is. He was waived by the Knicks on October 19th. Okay. But where's he going to play? Thaddeus Young is 300 years old.
What happened now?
NBA guru Zach says they need to pick up Thaddeus Young.
Who?
Thad Young? He's 36.
He's that old now.
He is that old.
Is that what you just said? Sorry.
No, I did not. That's a Johnny G-ism right there. That's right. Yeah, that is out of the league right now. And he averaged, just so we know, last season between two teams, 4.2 points per game. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to be like, they need a Thad Young type of player.
Yeah, just not.
I'll rock with that take.
Just not the old
Thad
one.
Young specifically.
Yeah. Tall Chinese guy. Why is Fox leading the team in 3-point attempts? He's shooting less than 30%. Because he's your leading scorer typically. And just so you know, he led the team in 3-point attempts last year, but he also shot 36.9. I think it's just he's reduced his 3-point shots, even though he's not hitting them. So that's at least a good sign, like self-awareness thing. But I would expect him to be. I think the Kings need him to be at 7+ threes a game. You just can't have him shooting 28.2%. Yeah. He last year 7.8 attempts per game, this year 6.5. So at least again he's taking fewer. De'Aaron Fox is not shooting a career high from everywhere on the court, securing to Bagley. He's shooting, well, I mean, maybe 2-point field goal percentage is his best. No. He shot 58.4% 2 years ago and 2-point field goal percentage. This year is 57.4. His shots are down two shots per game. And he's shooting 87.7% from three, from the free throw line, which is just wild. Good for him. Splits. Let me see. I'm gonna look up splits because someone just said the Kings were really good at home last year. This year from three, they're shooting 30.4% from three at home and 30% on the road. Almost identical. And last season, I don't think they shot great at home last season.
Oh yeah, Johnny. I'm on that more than LeBron, 18.5.
37.7. No one is coming. Oh, I haven't asked. You're not coming to the game tonight, right?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Oh, here we go.
Now, back to the Insiders with James Ham and Kyle Madsen, brought to you by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320.
Maybe the Kings will hit a bunch of threes tonight.
Maybe.
That'd be neat.
They hit a bunch of threes. This game won't be close.
I can't. I know we talked about this a bunch yesterday, but I can't get my head around the idea that this is just who they are. I just refuse to believe it. 30.1%? That's so bad. And that's what they're shooting from three. There's and we talked about the open three stats and the catch and shoot stats and all this other stuff. Like at some point, Keegan's going to start shooting it better. I think De'Aaron starts shooting it better at some point. Kevin Huerter starts shooting it better at some point. And now the 30.1 becomes 35, 36, which is a lot more tenable. Like I can't, nothing that we talked about yesterday when we were trying to dig into kind of what their problem is from three, nothing happened that made me go, oh, I worry about that long term.
No, I totally agree.
There's just no way they're all bad now.
Yeah, and to your point too, I think that there is a point where we look at what De'Aaron Fox is doing, and it stands out because he's shooting 28% on 6.3 attempts per game, right? But let's just say if everyone else was shooting really well and De'Aaron Fox was the outlier, then I don't think it would feel nearly as much of a problem. If you know what I'm saying? Like you're like, okay, he's working through the hand issue. We're trying to figure it out. And he'll be fine. You know, maybe he's 32, 33, 34% this year. Maybe he's not as good as he was last year from three. But, you know, we're going to give that some time and have him keep shooting, get through it, learn what's going on with the hand, and we'll figure it all out in the end, right? But when he's one of like half the team that the entire group is basically shooting below their career percentages, except for Sabonis and DeMar DeRozan, then there's a problem, right? Because it now he's just heaped in with everybody else. The other group is like historically better than him at shooting 3-point shots. Kevin Huerter throughout his career has been a better career 3-point shooter than De'Aaron Fox. Keegan Murray, better 3-point. Trey Lyles, like these are all guys that you expect to be better at it. But when everybody is collectively just not hitting anything, number one, it raises a huge red flag. Like what exactly is going on here, right? But also, I think it like magnifies that Fox is. You're usually okay with Fox being a bulk shot attempt guy, a bulk shooter, as opposed to what we're seeing right now, where he's a bulk shooter, but everybody else is just like in the dumps.
Yeah, and Soren Smith brings up a good point, and he said the 3-point defense concerns me much more than their 3-point shooting. And again, if you want to get in the chatty house, youtube.com/ESPN1320, twitch.tv/ESPN1320. I definitely agree with that because it feels like the defense could be a longer term issue or an issue that we're talking about in January, way more than the Kings shooting 30.1% from 3 in January.
Well, yeah, I think the problem is the players are missing shots, which is a problem, right? Players are missing shots. We can like go a deep dive into minutes played or into like the travel that the Kings have had early in the season. Again, they don't leave, just so people know, they don't leave the state of California until after Thanksgiving.
Holy smokes.
And then even that, they only play outside of Golden one time, and during that time, they've got one game in LA against the Clippers. So like they play at home or one game against the Clippers until like the 27th of November. So they're going to be here, right? And this is going to be that moment where maybe they do, again, sleep in your own bed, like figure out your sleep patterns again, get back into a routine, sort of reset. But they need to figure out why it is that they don't have accuracy from the 3-point line.
Right.
And then, but I think the problem that we all are looking at on the defensive side is, number one, we know personnel-wise, they have a soft spot. They don't have the long, super athletic wing defender that maybe can impact your defense, that can change the opponent's 3-point shooting percentage, right? But also, it feels like there's something structurally that they're not figuring out right now, whether it's a backside rotation, whatever it is. Like the skip pass in the corner should not be wide open every single time. Every time it's wide open, you're seeing that, that your defender is leaving the corner 3 guy and going standing under the basket. And I get it. That's part of what their rotations are and what they're trying to do. But that's the deadliest shot in the game. Again, that's 40%.
It's a wide open corner 3.
Wide open corner 3 worth 1.2 points per possession. You can't make up for that if they're hitting 5 of those or 10 of those in a game from one spot, and you're getting a layup every time at 60%.
Yeah.
Like the math is tough for you to work it all out in the end. Or if you're hitting mid-range jump shots, 0.8%, 0.8 points per possession. It's really difficult. So you got to figure it out.
That's why I think I agree that like defensively they have stuff to figure out. But the reason the offensive side becomes more urgent to me is because that was supposed to be like not an issue at all. And that it's been an issue now they shot it fine, I think the first 3 games, but now it's 8 games in a row where they're just ice cold. I need to see them get back on track there first. Because I think they can, because to your point, I don't think there's anything that they can really do defensively. Maybe it's something schematic. Maybe it is the reaching in and swiping at the ball. Maybe that's making them a step late and they're not getting enough contest. I don't totally know. But we also know that based on kind of what we saw from this roster last year, they didn't do anything to substantially upgrade their perimeter defense. And so it might just be that they're not great at defending the 3. But I think they can get past that. I think they can do enough defensively, but it's going to require them to be good to great at shooting it on the other side.
Yeah.
So that's why I need to see them get out of that rut first, and then we can talk about it. It's like, okay, they're now shooting over a 15-game span. They're shooting 36, 37% from 3. You feel so much better about it. Now we can go, okay, what can they do defensively? Because right now, it's like there's not a ton they can do to dramatically affect things defensively. There is a ton they can do to dramatically affect things offensively. And I think they need to be better at, this sounds analytics there, they need to be better at putting the ball in the hoop.
Yeah.
Like, just bottom line.
No, that...
I got to start there.
Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, again, if you look at where they were last year as a 3-point shooting team, they weren't top in the league, but they were good enough, right? And so last season they finished, 16th in the league, shooting 36.6% from 3. If they were shooting 36.6 from 3 right now, we wouldn't have this 15-point gap every single night.
Nope.
At all. Like that just would. Last year they hit 14.4 threes per game. This year they're giving up 15.1.
Gosh.
So again, what we're talking about is 0.8 threes per game made more. So you would be getting outscored by 2.4 points per game from behind the arc, as opposed to 15. That's ball game.
Yes.
Like, you're undefeated.
Yeah.
Except for the one game that you just didn't show up and got thumped by San Antonio.
You're looking at a team that's probably closer to like 8-3.
Yeah.
And that's why that's right. And that's where if you're making them, the defense becomes a lot more. We might be nitpicking and going, oh yeah, but their 3-point defense, like if they get into a series against such and such or such and such, it could be a real problem. But also, like, Kenny talks about this all the time on D'Lo and Casey. Like people always whine about the defense, but putting the ball in the hoop is like the goal of the game.
Yep.
And the Kings just aren't doing that right now.
No, totally.
Am I confident that they're going to at some point? Yeah, 100%. I just think they have too many players who are too good at shooting that are not shooting it well right now to think this is going to be a long-term problem. So that's why that to me, while I'm confident it's going to happen, like, hey, we got to see it first. Because maybe they start shooting it at a high enough clip that we're looking at a game in, game out basis and going, 3-point defense is fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's about closing that gap. How do you close the 15-point gap? And I think the easiest way to close that gap is by hitting more threes.
Well, and this is where and this is where the whole mid-range aspect of this comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole De'Aaron and Domas or not Domas, but DeMar DeRozan as ISO scorers comes in. Because how many times have we looked up at the scoreboard this year and gone, wow, they're being outscored by 18 at the 3-point line, but it's a 6-point game. Every game?
Yeah.
It feels like?
Every game, except for maybe the San Antonio game.
So to me, it's not even, like you said, it's not even closing the entire 15-point gap. It's, can you close it by 9? Because if you're doing that, you're in a way better spot. So that's the margin for error is not super, super large here. Or the margin for, not the margin for error. The difference between wins and losses here at the 3-point line is not super large, given all the other things the Kings are good at offensively.
Yeah.
It all starts at the 3-point line.
No,
it's a great opportunity tonight to get that started.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like, look, this is a team with this is a team with some gritty defenders, but they're not crazy defensively. And they don't have multiple defenders to send at people. Like Devin Booker's a better defender. Trey Jones is a good defender. Like, and even Plumlee, Tyus Jones, sorry. Plumlee is a good defender.
Sure.
Right. But these aren't this isn't a juggernaut team. They don't have Mikal Bridges anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't. They don't have elite length and size and quickness on the perimeter. You should be able to score on this team.
Yeah, man. I'm right there with you. We'll talk more about that in the handoff, which is coming up here in a couple of minutes. We were going around the NBA talking about the first group stage games of the Emirates NBA Cup. Is that right? Is that the right wording? I've not bothered to learn it because it's the in-season tournament to me. It's Emirates NBA Cup.
NBA Emirates Cup.
The Warriors.
Emirates NBA Cup.
The Warriors beat the Mavs 120-117 last night. Warriors moved to 9-2. We talked a lot earlier about the Steph and Clay of it all. Quentin Grimes is nice, dude. Quentin Grimes can play.
He can. He hasn't had the impact that I thought he would in Dallas, but I like this addition by them because I really think that they missed sort of that. It's just an ingredient. It's a Malik Monk ingredient, right? And I thought that they really missed that after losing Jalen Brunson to free agency a couple of years ago, even though Brunson's gone on to be a starter and do all this stuff. But before he was a starter and did all that stuff, he was like an incredible change of pace guy. Same thing, for years they had JJ Barrera there doing the same thing. Teams need that sort of difference maker off the bench. And man, if they can figure out how to use him effectively, they're gonna be tough.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Grimes is good defender. Hit a big 3 last night. Philly beat the Knicks 111-99. I'm increasingly worried that Joel Embiid is going to go down as an all-time what-if guy.
Yeah.
I know he came back last night. He had the suspension and he came back from the injury. I watch him play and there's just no way in my mind that that he ages well and that he ages effectively.
Well, he's almost 31.
I know.
And that's a problem. And we're talking about a guy who missed his entire first 2 seasons in the NBA and then only played 31 games his second season.
And and this is where we have DeMar DeRozan here in Sacramento. 35 years old and just cooking night in and night out. There's Steph Curry over there in San Francisco, 36 years old, puts up 37, 9, and 6 last night. You have LeBron James, who's 87 and having triple doubles.
Yep.
Right. Like, so we have all these guys, even Chris Paul, not as effective as he was, but still playing, still a player that can help the Spurs. Like, this is all, but Joel Embiid at 31, this is not a guy who to me has 5 years of prime left.
No, here's
like we may never see a fully prime version of Joel Embiid, and that's not that's like stunning given his injury problems early, but it just really kind of settled in last night. It's the handoff. Kenny Caraway in the building. What's up? Oh, you gotta get your mic on.
There we go. What's going on, fellas? How you guys doing?
Chilling. What are you saying?
I was like, it's crazy. So he was taken in the 2014-15 NBA draft, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah. So he actually came into the league a full 3 seasons before De'Aaron Fox. For his career, he has 434 games played, which is
5 seasons.
Like basically the equivalent of 5 seasons. And I don't know. Let me look and see what Fox has played. This is just for an example. Fox has played 480 games. So Fox has played 44 more games than Joel Embiid, and he came into the league 3 years later. And Fox isn't a guy who has been like incredibly healthy his entire career. I mean, like again, last year 74, the year before 73 games, but he also has some seasons where it's more in the 50s, and even if 2 of those seasons were 72 game seasons, but some games in the 50s.
It's one of the reasons why I think it was this past summer, or like right after the season ended. I don't know if I would have, as we say on D-Lo and KC, the Coco Joneses to actually make the move, but I thought Philly should have quiet internal discussions about trading Joel Embiid, and they actually went the opposite way and gave him a contract,
which was insane.
Yeah, but it's not about the player. It's not about his greatness or his talent or whatever. It's exactly what you're talking about, Kyle. Like he just can't stay healthy.
No,
and it's not going to age well. It's only going to get worse. And I thought, like I said, I don't know, depending on the deal, like you do it, but it would be really under the radar. I tell these teams, I don't want one horse knowing. I don't want nobody. Like, but I want to talk to you. Like, what do you have to offer? Because you'd be selling high at that point. Maybe it's one of those things where, he has another MVP type year, one more in him, maybe. But
that's my concern is I don't think he does.
I don't think he does either. And once again, it's not.
And now
his
he's
talent.
he's on
talent. He's talented enough to have an MVP year, but he's not going to be healthy enough.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. There's no doubt that Joel Embiid, when he's fully healthy, is one of the 2 or 3 best players in the sport.
He's one of the greatest we've ever seen.
And he's just never going to be that guy again.
Well, even like when you're watching him last year when he came back in the playoffs, right? The knee is the issue at that point, right?
Yep.
Like he'd had a knee issue. Did he not do anything else while he was out? Because it didn't look like it was just a knee issue while he was running up and down the court, limping up and down the court, but his entire body didn't look right. Like you're not, some guys when they get, lower leg injury, doesn't mean you can't sit there and do all of the other workouts. He doesn't feel like a player who is in like the best of the best shape. And it's not fair to like point at him and say, hey, you're not the best shape, because I can look at Jokic, the 3 out of 4 year MVP here that we're watching, who never looks like he's in great shape, or Luka Doncic, who looks like that dude doesn't work out at all.
He does bicep curls, the donuts to his mouth.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think like Jokic is almost always healthy, and he's on the court, and he knows how to play through it. And maybe it's just like Embiid's early injuries, whether it's back, whether it's lower legs, whatever it was. Yeah. It just added up to too much. But at this point, I'm with you, Kyle. I don't think we're not going to see the 35 point, 12 rebound, 6 assist Joel Embiid that we saw for like a glimmer last year.
No, and I also want to say, I don't think it's his fault. I just think he's one of those guys. Like, it's not Penny Hardaway's fault that he had Michael.
Yeah, no, he's just going to go down as an all-time what-if guy.
Yeah, just unfortunately, that's his body and what's happened to it.
Right. We're going to go, man, he was great. But, if I'm fortunate enough to have kids and they grow up to be sports fans, and they go, hey, what's the deal with Joel Embiid? It's going to be like, man, he was great, but look, but he didn't have, like, these stats. It's just like, yeah, that was one good season, but like, yeah, he just couldn't get on the court, man.
He's going to be Moses Malone.
Oh, that's a good one.
Moses Malone played forever, though.
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. But if you talk to people of that time, they'll be like, I mean, Moses literally
he doesn't get talked about as that dude, but if anybody watches him, they're like, nah.
And he was like literally like, oh, you want to win a championship, you got to go get Mo. That's what Philly had to do. Philly was like, Dr. J's great, Mo Cheeks is great, but we ain't doing nothing without Moses. We got to go get Moses.
Yeah.
Real quick, you brought up Luka, and I meant to bring this up earlier when we were talking about the Warriors-Mavs game, but I forgot. Were you locked into that game last night?
In and out. I was watching the college basketball game a lot.
Did you catch when he fouled, I think it was Andrew Wiggins, and called for a review?
No.
Late in the game, he hammers, I'm pretty sure it was Andrew Wiggins, just hammers him across the arms. Like, easy call. He immediately does the thing.
Yes,
so
I
they
saw
review it. It took 4 seconds.
Oh,
it's
my
like,
God.
yeah, you fouled him. Like, they showed a replay, and I'm looking at I'm standing in my kitchen. I'm like, they're reviewing. I missed something. Rewind it. Like, no, he got him across the arm pretty clearly.
Come on, man.
I'm so tired of it. He is great. He is amazing. He made some shots last night and some passes. It's just like, dude, he is one of one.
Right. He's the truth.
And it is, cannot stand watching him.
Nope.
My least favorite player in the league to watch.
I agree. He's the truth, though, man. He's an unbelievable talent,
unreal,
but everything else that comes with him is just, like you said, it's unenjoyable for me at least.
I didn't love the last shot he took last night at the buzzer, or with a couple seconds left, that step back, like 30-footer. But also when he shot it, it's like, I might go in.
Not all the time. Even the little shimmy dream shake he did from 17 that looked like it was going in.
Oh, the one he threw way up in the air?
Yeah.
I think what happened on that last play, though, I think he was anticipating them. He was trying to time Wiggins trying to foul him and go up with the shot, and Wiggins never fouled him.
Yep.
And then he got stuck with this little fall away. But
the Warriors have been so bad at that throughout the years. They've been terrible at it. And that is exactly, as soon as he stepped back, I was like, don't touch him. Oh, God, no.
He was trying to time it because there was a bunch of opportunities for Wiggins to do it. Wiggins could have done it at half court.
He needed
to. Turned his back to the basket. That's when you do it
at
half court. And I thought he was going to foul him, and he didn't.
Yeah, I don't know, man. What do you, I just, incredible game, though.
It was a great game. It was a great game. And we're going to talk about the Kings obviously going up against Phoenix.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about that game. And I got a hypothesis.
Can we know it now? Or is that your team?
No, I'm not sure Steph Curry was fond of Klay Thompson.
Oh. Bro, that's a layer we didn't get into because I don't know how much people in Sacramento care. I think he's pissed.
You think he's pissed, or he never liked him?
Oh, I think he liked him fine. I don't think he likes how it all went down. I think they have been together for so long, and they had this idea that, like, hey, this is how this is going to go down. We're all on the same page. And then Klay went, nope. I am no longer on this page.
It was clear as day to me last night.
After he hit the 3, hit the 9, and then was like, this is our like I'm here or something like that. It was like,
in the third quarter, he was like yelling and doing all this other stuff. He guarded him on the opening tip. I don't think he likes Klay.
I don't think he liked how it all went down. All right.
Interesting.
Kenny Caraway coming up with D-Lo and KC. For James Ham, I'm Kyle Madsen. We're the Insider, sponsored by Jiffy Lube. We'll be back with you tomorrow at 10 a.m. to break down the Kings, hopefully a Kings win over the Phoenix Suns. Until then, drink water and be nice, people.